Hi, welcome to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast powered by the Jim Moran of Entrepreneurship. Today in studio, we have David Muir of Island Syndicate. It's a media and branding agency that creates exceptional content for discerning corporate, governmental, and organizational clients. Hey, David, thank you for coming in today, or at least coming in virtually to have a conversation about your business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Actually, before we do that, you are also known as the Sexy Man. So I want to hear about how did that moniker stick?
Mark, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. Love talking about my business, love talking about my experiences. But if we're going to talk about my moniker, Sexy Man, there's a long version and a short version. I'm going to try to give you the short version and allow you to ask for more if you still want to hear it. But the short version, really quick and easy, is that I was married to a beautiful lady by the name of G for 25 years. She's still my best friend. And when we got divorced, I affectionately referred to her as my sexy ex. So Sexy Exy. That's my ex-wife, Sexy Exy. And in response to that, she would just say to me, hey, sexy man, sexy man. So it was like a call response for our term of endearment. Again, we're still best friends. We go on vacations together. We do so we're great. I'm remarried. We still hang out. She loves my new wife. We're, best of friends. And based on that, other people hearing our exchange started joining the, sexy man, whatever it was. My business partner, the lead, we talk about our business, said, oh, no, this is precious. And so she put it on my business card. So instead of a title, my title on my business card is Sexy Man. So every time I handed out my business card, more and more people would say, Sexy Man, what's that about? So it just kept growing. And now I've been called Sexy Man for a good while, at least 10 years. And everyone knows me by that. There is a deeper version, but that's the surface version.
I love it. I love it. Super fun, super cool story. So let's start talking a little bit about your current business, and then we'll take a step back about just your background and other things that you've been involved with. So you lead a media company now. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get that started? What do you do? What are you known for besides being the Sexy Man?
Excellent. Thank you for, again, asking the question. I will tell you that, honestly, I am known most as a photographer. Most people are aware of some of the books that I've done. About 15 years ago, I started taking pictures of my home country just because I missed it and I wanted to document it in that way. That led me to a resurgence of love of photography. I'd always loved photography, but it was more just family and occasional hobby work.
But real quick, your home country is Jamaica, correct?
You are correct.
Okay.
I was going to get there.
Oh, sorry about that.
No thunder stolen. It's perfect. You actually landed a greater thunder than I would have. But yeah, so I did a series of art exhibitions in about 2008, 2009, called Pieces of Jamaica. Those art exhibitions led me to be asked by a publisher if I would be interested in publishing my work because it was so popular. I was getting a few thousand people showing up to the different art exhibitions, and buying art and so on, that somebody thought, this might be a good idea to have it as a collection available for purchase. Once that idea developed some more, and I realized what they were offering me, it really wasn't very lucrative. For every book that sold, I would have got a couple of pennies. And I thought, this is ridiculous. It's my work. If I'm going to do this book, I should do it on my own. I decided to self-publish the book. I backed the project. It's not the regular self-publishing where you just go online and upload something. This was a very robust project. I actually hired the firm that approached me about doing the book to actually be my publisher. So I had an expert publishing company who helped to develop the book. That book, called Pieces of Jamaica, was my coming out party as a photographer. Even though I've been doing photography in minor ways for a long time, that coming out party led me to a lot of things. Specifically, when you have a book, people think you're an expert. And so I started getting invitations to speak at various universities. I got asked to teach at another university. I got all kinds of opportunities because now I'm this known expert with a book. All of this to say, my life is a lot of fun. But that also led me to now own my own publishing company. So there's a lot of phases and steps along the way. But taking it back to your original question to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, to two parents who are just the most wonderful. Unfortunately, both are currently gone. They passed away. But my dad is just a brilliant person and a wonderful story that's worth telling. I could give you a whole episode just on my dad. And my mom, who was the personality, the person who was able to do something be greater than her talents, they started their own business. They were entrepreneurs in Jamaica. They started a restaurant. My mother was a chef. She had studied culinary in college. And so my dad and mom started a restaurant in the 70s in Jamaica. And since I was a child of the 60s, I was growing up around my parents as entrepreneurs. And so I've had the bug for entrepreneurialism from as young as I can remember. I would leave elementary school and walk to my parents' restaurant and spend afternoon cutting up salad items and helping to put cash in the cash register, whatever they ask, cutting up fruit in the bar. So my entire life, I've been seeing entrepreneurial spirit. Even my mom would bake pies at home and ask us to help to make the pies and take them to the restaurant and sell. So there's this constant theme in my life. So when I was about, I'm going to say it probably was about 12 when I started really doing entrepreneurial things. In the 80s, early 80s, I started having or hosting parties, paid parties where people would pay an entrance fee and come in. And so that's the beginning of me doing business as an entrepreneur. At some point, my dad, who was doing very well, he was the marketing manager for the Caribbean for Exxon. And at some point in my teenage years, my dad, who was, again, had a pretty decent job, he'd gone to Harvard, got his degrees, went on and did a lot of stuff, had his master's, working for an international company in an international heavy role. And in one night, I remember in my teenage years, I had made enough money in one night that my dad would make that entire year for his annual salary. And I thought, I'll never work for someone if I can leave in one night what he was doing a year. The bug had got me complete. So
those must have been some pretty wild parties.
they were. They certainly were. But that's right. My life as an entrepreneur has really just evolved along just having a lot of fun. My life has been defined by doing things that interest me. And once I'm doing things that I love to do, it's really, life's pretty good.
Thank you for sharing that. So when did you start your publishing or your media company?
So the media company is really a new product. So the actual company, I think, originally was formed in 2015, at which point I'd already now done one book. And I did that first book under just my photography business, which was called, as silly as it is now looking back, my photography business was called David Iphoto. I didn't think big when I made that name. I was just thinking, that's my name. I'm David. I do photography. So David Iphoto. That was back in years and years before. I had actually started my first corporation before I was so by the time I started my photography business, I still was just having a lot of fun. But in 2015, we started this company called Island Syndicate. And Island Syndicate has done a lot of amazing things. For example, one of the first sort of things we were known for as Island Syndicate was my business partner, Khalid Thompson. She came up with this concept that she wanted to do a television show featuring culinary acts from the Caribbean. So we started this television show nationally. It was aired on PBS or their affiliates in different states, called Taste the Islands. So Taste the Islands was a Caribbean cooking show. The first ever nationally aired Caribbean cooking show. It starred Chef Irie first, and then in the second season, you added Chef Tia. The Chef Irie is a Jamaican chef, Chef Tia is a Haitian chef. And so we were having these TV shows celebrating tasting the islands. More about that as we got into the publishing world. But that led us a few years later to start an event. It was essentially a food festival called Taste the Islands Experience. A lot of the people nationwide who were watching the television show would express that they would love to try the food. And since neither of the chefs had their own restaurant, we decided we are going to have an annual food festival that people could travel and experience the food. When we started that first food festival, which I'm going to say must have been 2017. Yeah, I think it was 2017. We started a food festival and people started attending the festival. What actually ended up happening as a result was that for the first episode or the first event called Taste the Islands Experience, we decided we would put a magazine together for people who come so they could follow along with information and recipes and things of that nature. And that magazine became a regular published magazine that we started distributing both in Florida and then beyond throughout the Caribbean and other places as a result of that food festival that we started. So what you find is that one business always leads you to another business. And so we became an official publishing company, I think in 2017 is when we started that as an official part of the business itself. Still, as a media company, we've done a lot of different things. So Island Origins Magazine is the name of that magazine that was formed out of this food festival that we were having. And again, we published the magazine, gave it away for free at the first annual food festival. And everybody loved it so much. They were like, when's the next copy or next edition of this magazine? We had no intentions of repeating it. It was just meant for the food festival. But based on people's desire, we said, okay, we're going to make it a quarterly magazine. So every 3 months, we'd drop another issue of Island Origins Magazine. And so that just became another one of our business sort of spill-offs from Taste the Islands TV show to Taste the Islands Experience, a culinary food event, to then even going on to having Island Origins Magazine and other things of that nature. So it business begets business. If you're open-minded and you're willing to allow business to grow, you can make anything from one business.
Well, that's fantastic. I'd like to hear more about your life in Jamaica and then when you relocated to Florida, what year that was. What was the catalyst for that move? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely. So I grew up in Jamaica. I love to death. I still love Jamaica. I'm there all the time. I actually still do pictures of Jamaica for the Jamaica Tourist Board. So I'm happy when I'm going home, typically because it means I have work, means I'm going to earn some income. But I left Jamaica. I was in my late 20s in the 1990s. So I was almost 30. And what was the catalyst for my moving away was that I wanted to, I guess you'd call it, settle down. I'd lived a very fun and adventurous life, but I wanted to focus on family. And there was a young lady who I thought was the person to settle down with. And she had mostly made her life in New York. And even though we saw each other a lot, she was from Jamaica and we saw each other in many ways, I decided to leave Jamaica to make that home, that family life, have children, and do that in New York. So my moving from Jamaica took me to New York at first. And I don't know if you've been to New York, but it's a little bit cold. It's just a little bit, for someone coming from an island like, was like, this is a mistake. I need to go south, either back to Jamaica or somewhere close enough that I can have the temperature that I like. And then I talked about it, but never made any move. And then 9/11 happened. I lived in New York, and that was a great wake-up call. Immediately plans were made and I took off. I was like, enough of New York City. I'm good. I've seen enough. I've spent years. And so 2001, September 11th was a big marker. And by the following year, I was living in Florida.
Okay.
So
Is that when you moved to Fort Lauderdale direct, where you're now, or
definitely. No, so I'm going to tell you that Fort Lauderdale became my home. And I say Fort Lauderdale, no, that's stretching, because I actually moved originally to Sunrise, Florida, which is in the Broward County, which is the county which hosts Fort Lauderdale. So a lot of people call Broward, which is a county, just like Miami-Dade is a county, say Miami. Well, Broward County, people just call it Fort Lauderdale, but it's actually Broward County. Some people even call Broward County Miami, because it's just close enough that it's mix the two together. But in the county of Broward, my original home was in the city of Sunrise. I lived there for a good amount of years, and then I actually moved to Fort Lauderdale. So I've been in Broward County and this area for over 20 years, but I didn't live in Fort Lauderdale proper until I think 2013. So about 11 years ago, I went to Broward County, to Fort Lauderdale proper, downtown Fort Lauderdale by the airport.
And you got connected with the Jim Moran Institute, I believe, in 2010 in November. You went to the Minority Business Conference. Can you tell us a little bit about how that all came about? How did you get connected with JMI and that conference? How did you hear about it?
So it's, again, world is crazy. One thing just leads to another. So back in 2010, I was running my wife's law firm. So again, family business, wife is an attorney. We do business in that way. So for me, the focus was on how can I get more business? How can I do things that lead us to get business to grow, etc. I did have essentially a small photography business at the time. It wasn't my primary thing yet, but it was something I was trying to make primary. So I was balancing both my wife's law firm and my photography business at that time. And so a business conference is perfect, because as somebody, you should know, Mark, that some of the best ways to get business is to be connected to people who do business.
100%.
And so the networking, some people want to call it, but there's a true sense that people give business to people they like. And if you can like somebody, it's most likely that you will trust them. So if you have and trust, you're going to be doing great business for a long time. And what I found that going to that business conference, actually, I got, just by attending in 2010, I got a new client for my photography business. So I went to the event and I met up with who she's no longer in that role, but she was the head of Hispanic Unity of Florida. And by meeting up with her there, she gave me the work to do all of the photography for that entity. And that my nonprofit was a very lucrative part of how I launched my photography business to become much more of a solid business, which has grown now into even more into publishing. But it was, so going to the first JMI conference for me was pivotal, because I got a great business lead that led to future business. But even more, it led me to get connected to people involved with JMI. JMI didn't have a South Florida component as yet. It was still just Tallahassee. But just by going to that first conference, when they were coming back to do the next conference in South Florida, which was, of course, traveling from Tallahassee, I was in play to get the jobs documented. And I've been documenting for JMI for the next 12 or 13 years since, just being in place. By going as an attendee, I got the business, and I've been getting continuous over a decade of new business because I attended one conference. JMI is extremely important to me, and it is one of these sort of like key leaders in industry here in terms of, for me, both as a client, and I operate for JMI as a vendor, but then even more importantly for me was that after starting to work for JMI as a vendor, I signed up to be someone who got educated by the Institute. And so now I have a whole nother perspective. I can tell you that there was a great opportunity for me to grow how I thought about business and to expand what I did as a business as a result of being educated by the Small Business Executive Program, which I signed up for in the first year that it started, which is 2013. And I believe I started in class January 2014. So I think I was in the second Small Business Executive Program that was run out of GMI in South Florida.
That's fantastic. And then since then, you weren't only an attendee, but since then you've been a speaker, a panelist, and you've also joined the peer-to-peer group, correct?
Correct. Yep. I'm a regular part of peer-to-peer. I've spoken, I've been a panelist, I've had loads of opportunities for continue interacting, both as an expert and as someone who provides a service to JMI, which is, again, for me, it's such a great honor that they would continue to utilize my services all these years later. Hopefully it means I've been doing a good job and that they're happy. But we can speak with Jennifer or Amy or one of the team to find that out for sure.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So outside of the networking, does anything stand out to you about the Small Business Executive Program and or peer-to-peer that's been helpful to you in building your business?
Definitely. Both have been instrumental. I would tell you that the Small Business Executive Program to me is, without a doubt, one of the most phenomenal things that exists in learning how to improve your business. Because never before I took that program had I even been introduced to the idea of working on your business. Instead of working in your business, you would take that step back and work on your business. So I promise you, like I told you, when I started working with JMI, all I owned was a solopreneurship. It was just me by myself, running David Iphoto. David Iphoto was never going to become what Island Syndicate is today. So just opening my mind to growing the business, to having a partnership, for having staff members, to like, by just doing the Small Business Executive Program, I learned that I had to have a bigger and a greater plan for the business. And as a result of it, I've become not just a better entrepreneur, I've become a serial entrepreneur. I've done multiple businesses. I also, with my business partner, we have a nonprofit that we run as well. It's called Island Space. We opened the first ever Caribbean museum. These are all things that, even though they're not directly related to JMI, they're as a result of being inspired to do new work and to push yourselves in business based on the information learned in the Small Business Executive Program. Now, having put that to the side, which is critical, what I will tell you is most important about the peer-to-peer follow-up program to the Small Business Executive Program is that what peer-to-peer allows you to do is to let you hear it out. It's to be able to have dialogue with other entrepreneurs who have had experiences that you haven't had, and that they are there as a essentially no cost consultant to give you guidance on how to solve the problems that you have experienced in your business without you having to have the pitfalls by trying the wrong methodology. So peer-to-peer is brilliant. To have a group of high-level entrepreneurs, either at the CEO or president level or whatever each one's title is from each company, to meet up once a month and to spend 2+ hours guiding each other on the challenges of your business is just great. And the way that they have brought in all the top companies to participate in a Small Business Executive Program, then now what you have is a pool of the top entrepreneurs working together to help each other to do better in business. It's just simply brilliant. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm work. It's like, how can we not love work? my offers this program.
Thank you for that, David. So you mentioned challenges several times, and I think a lot of times people on the outside look at entrepreneurs, especially ones with the moniker the sexy man, and think, oh, they got it so easy. They're just out there having fun, and everything is just money and yachts and trips to Jamaica and stuff like that. But me being a serial entrepreneur as well, and there's many challenges that people don't see. If you would be vulnerable enough with us, could you share some of the challenges that you faced as an entrepreneur, and what were some of the things that got you through the hard times?
So there's always challenges. And even when things seem best, there are going to be new challenges. Like entrepreneur, working as an entrepreneur has no easy lane. There's no easy way. And even if you're making loads of money, doesn't solve problems. There are lots of problems. You can have HR problems. You can have financial institution problems. Have a hurricane come and destroy your building. There's so many.
That would never happen in Florida.
Never. But just being real, there's always new challenges, and you always have to fight to know how do I handle each one. And I can speak to one I'm having right now. My wife and I are starting another business. I'm crazy. And we're having some issues right now with some financing. We got approved, or we got pre-approved for a loan from a particular bank. I can tell you if you need to know. But in the end, the bank last minute pulled out because some things weren't what they expected. And so we got left holding in a situation where we needed the funds. We already committed, paid the lease, have a new landlord, paid a franchise fee, did all these different things. And the money that was supposed to support the business was not around. So here's a classic major problem. No money. And I say no money.
Yeah, I know.
Not money meaning where we expected it to come from. So now we rob from Peter to pay Paul. So now I'm taking funds that were earmarked for something else. These are things that happen every day being an entrepreneur. I can tell you, I've gotten circumstances where I need to have a certain insurance policy, and you'd think, hey, it's called up insurance. Not everybody wants to underwrite what it is you want to insure. And so there's always going to be challenges. How do you find the right mix of who to work with, who to have work for you? You hire somebody, you train them, and then they leave, and now you have to hire somebody else to train them again. You wasted all these resources. There is no end to the challenge. I think some of the best parts of being in the peer-to-peer group, so no matter what your challenges are, there's someone else who's been through something very similar. And to have those resources, again, intellectually from a high level, to be able to say, hey, in my experience, this is how I handled that trouble, and this is how I found my way out of it. And that's just such a valuable resource in entrepreneurship. That makes peer-to-peer a very special part of my relationship with the Jim Moran Institute, because it's really amazing. If you need me, I can always go deeper into one of the issues, but there are always issues on the ebook. Like right now, I'm actually in one of my businesses, and it's cool enough, but we need 3 new air conditioning units. It's going to run probably $60,000. And that was an unplanned situation, but the summer was brutal. 1 AC went, there's 3 up there. The other 2 will be fine. And slowly but surely, now we're out 3 AC. So how do we handle that? Negotiation, because landlords don't typically replace commercial air conditioners. That's on the tenant's shoulders, but we're trying to not walk away from the lease and work something out with the landlord. But there's always issues that need to be resolved. There's no magic bullet that takes care of everything. And if you're an entrepreneur, there are always going to be things that pop up with surprise or not even surprise, where you know it's coming and you just have to plan, and you don't know it all. You cannot know it all. So it's always great to have peers and colleagues to get information from to make better decisions.
I have a friend, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur. He's really well known here in Tallahassee, Matt Thompson. And if you ask him, I've seen so many people ask him when they're meeting him, like, oh, what do you do for a living? And he always responds, I solve problems. He's a restaurateur, but that's what I do every day. I get up and I solve problems.
Yeah, that is a fact. That literally, that's what a lot of times major problems occur and people, you wonder why I'm not freaking out. I'm like, you've done it for over 40 years. Nothing really gets me freaked out anymore. I know at the end, we're going to have a solution. We just got to get to it as soon as possible and at the lowest cost as possible.
I think that's one of the great things about being part of a peer-to-peer network and having mentors and things like that. And I think once you've been around long enough, you're seasoned like you are, you get to a point where I think you transition and you stop freaking out about the individual problem because you realize this is just another series of puzzles I need to solve.
Correct.
And I think once an entrepreneur gets to that point where they just accept, okay, this is part of it, right? That life gets a lot easier. It's not unexpected anymore. It's not,
Correct.
It's not a problem. The air conditioning is just the next thing. And after the air conditioning units, there's going to be another.
Something's coming. Yeah. It's coming.
Yeah. But the cool thing is, as an entrepreneur, you get to solve it, right? And I a lot of times think about entrepreneurs as people that love solving puzzles because that's really, you have limited resources. There's all these things you want to do, but you have these things you have to do. And it's a puzzle. You got to figure out, okay, how am I going to put this all together to create this beautiful vision that I have imagined so people can enjoy it?
I'll tell you something. Just as I sit here listening to you speak, I came up with what I think was the greatest challenge of my entrepreneurial life. And it's called COVID. When COVID came, it completely devastated my business pipeline. Like when you know how you're going to get new business and it's A, B, C, and D, and then something comes and there's wrecks that entire system. So none of your ways of getting business, new business, that's what's sustaining your staff, sustaining your income, making your profit. When those things all go away and you have to now as they called it there, I got to kick out of this whole idea of like, how are you making this shift, or as they said, pivot? How are you going to pivot your business? It was like, this was not just about a pivot. This was a complete reworking of everything that we had going on. And we survived COVID. So if you got past COVID, you're going to be okay in business a lot. If you were too young and you're just starting now, I promise you, all the businesses around survived COVID. You can survive anything. I promise you, if you stick to it, you listen, you learn, you get the right peers to advise you, you can survive. And the COVID was massive.
So you've said so many insightful things and I've been jotting them down, but there's one thing in particular that if you could see my piece of paper, I underlined it a couple of times and circled it. Would it be okay with you if I came back to that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you said, and it really hit me, that you give business to people you like and you trust. And I don't know why that hit me. The trust part hit me more. I don't know how much you could do about people liking you if you're authentic. You can tell me, let's start with that then. Tell me a little bit about the like, and then I want to go to the trust.
Okay. And they actually go hand in hand. But the truth is that everyone in business, and I'm taking my glasses off to emphasize, everyone in business should know this. It really is a fact. And when I say how you can help people to like you is to take the time to make the people special. And what I mean by that is, here's a perfect example. Before this interview, I was introduced to a lady who has a need, and that's in business. That's what we're always solving someone's need. She has a need. She wants a piece of art for her home. She's a bank manager. just so happens that I was referred to her by another former bank manager who is somebody who is now a consultant at SBDC, who helps me in consulting with for my business. And just as a tip, I sign up for every free service, whether it's JMI, SBDC, and the list of whatever it is, score. I'm going to sign up and I'm going to take advice and learn from everybody. There's no ego in this. There's other people who have other things to teach you. But getting back to this whole idea of, I don't know this lady at all, never been friends with her, but she had a need. I don't know that I can supply her need. I am running multiple companies and I don't have any time to go and hang out with somebody just to shoot the breeze. But I still made the time. And I went and I sat with her in her bank. She's a manager. And we spent about 2 hours just talking through what it was that she wanted to get for her home, not even related to her bank. But I promise you that based on the 2 hours, I looked her in her eye. I spoke the truth to her. I never told her anything that she wanted to hear. I told her what I know, shared my expertise. I gave her advice. I was harsh. I was honest. But I promise you, if you poll that lady today, she'd say, yeah, I like him. He was honest. He was respectful. He was timely. He smiled. He looked me in the face. He told me the truth. That's how you can get people to like you. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to pretend in any ways about anything. But if you show up for people when they need something and you give them your time and your intellect, you're going to like, it's a guarantee. Even better if you can be light about it. Don't bring a heavy load and drop that in somebody's lap. If you can go to them and take from them their heavy load, help them to be eased from their, whatever is stressing them out or whatever it is that they're challenged, whatever they needed, they're going to like you. That's a fact. And then if you can do that consistently, every time that you're called on, you do that, then you're going to develop trust. So liking is a part of building towards that trust. And it's something for me, if anyone asks me what is the key to success for me in business, it's being consistent and helping people when they need it. And that has kept me in business because now, for sure, those people who know that I'm there for them, who are going to, do what I can to help them, they're going to stand up and say, yeah, this guy's a good guy. Let's support his business. Let's be sure that we utilize his services, we utilize his products, we work with the companies he works with. That's, to me, the key to my personal success is by showing up always to help people, to be there for them, and to make them like me by just being honest and open and sharing my time.
No, I love that. That's a really good word. So the second thing is trust. And if I could direct a little bit, I'd like to hear both sides of trust. In your mind, how do you build trust? And then how does somebody what's the red flags that take away your trust of people?
So that's a great question. What builds trust is always, for me, consistency. So something as simple as being on time is something that builds trust. Something as simple as balancing your books. If I say something is going to cost $30, and then when I bill it at $30 or bill it at $28 plus tax or whatever it is, that's always going to be a trust builder. It happens both ways. It's both for the people providing services and goods as well as the people who receive services and goods. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, I tend to love doing business with businesses more than doing B2C because consumers or customers tend to break your trust more often. People will say, hey, I want this product, $50, and then you send them the product, you send them the bill, and they never pay you. Not that I have that in my life. Typically, you're going to sell them, you have them pay in advance. But pretend for a second, you send somebody a product for $5, bill, and then they don't pay the bill, and they shirk their responsibility. I'm not going to send them that product anymore. So that's breaking the trust. So it's things like that build trust over time. And for example, I use photography since I am a photographer. I may not be the best photographer, but if every job I do, I show up on time, I do the tasks that I bill for. Okay, I'm going to take pictures of 10 products or 10 people or whatever it is. And then I deliver it. A lot of photographers take on work and then they never deliver it. Oh, they took the wedding job. I don't shoot weddings, but just as an example, they did a wedding and then the person 5 years later says, I never got my wedding picture. I never understand that. I'm like, how does that person stay in business? Because no one's going to trust them because they have a whole line of people who never got the product. Like to me, trust is about delivering what you promise. Trust is about delivering it the way you promised it. Trust is about delivering it in the time that you promised it. And so I try to be very precise. I'm going to deliver my product in this way, at this time, in this packaging, in this, whatever it is, all the different parts, so that people can see, hey, he consistently does what he says he will do. Therefore, we're building trust. And how do you break trust? Is by not doing what you say. When you say, I will do the interview with Mark McNeese at 3:45 on Tuesday, and then at 3:45, Mark can't find me. He's calling me. Hey, David, what happened to our interview? Oh, man, I forgot. Oh, sorry. Can we do it next week? It's not going to build a lot of trust. Trust is about doing what you say you're going to do consistently over time. And fortunately for me, I've been doing things long enough. I've built a good reputation of trust in my community, and that goes a long way. It goes a very long way.
Such a good word, David. Such a good word. So I've loved our conversation. And at the end of every podcast, I'd love to ask my guests this question. If you could tell, let's say, 20-year-old or 25-year-old David, when you're at the beginning of your journey, assuming that a 20-year-old David would listen to you, that if you could tell yourself anything that was going to help you on your entrepreneurial journey, and it only can be one thing, what would you tell that 25-year-old David?
It's a great question. And I think that I wish I'd had someone tell me this at the very beginning. You always make money as an entrepreneur, but it's not what you make today that matters. It's what you put aside in terms of how you curating your long-term investment. What is it that your business is going to retain to make future business success? And I just wish that I had had a greater insight at 20. I wish someone, because I was told many things that I took as great advice, but I never did understand. They may have been told it, but it never registered for me that what I could have, should have done better was to have a sort of pool of assets dedicated to continuity more than just what I could make out of those assets at that moment. Some sort of a long-term planning process. I guess I just never thought at age 20 I'd be doing it in my 50s and beyond. So it never crossed the mind at all. That would have been very helpful. Someone guide me with long-term investment, long-term planning for business.
Speaking of investment, I appreciate you investing this time with us at the InNOLEvation Mindset podcast and sharing about your journey. I know people are going to love it. We have lots of people throughout Florida, that business people that listen to this. And then at the Jim Moran College, we have over, I think, 600 students that love listening to it. So you are full of wisdom, and I really enjoyed speaking with you. So thank you for tuning in to another episode of the InNOLEvation Mindset, powered by the Jim Moran College of Entrepreneurship. Hey, if you like this episode, please do us a favor and like it and share it and drop us a comment. We love hearing comments and we answer every single one. And be sure to subscribe. That's the best way to make sure that you are alerted to the next amazing episode. We will see you next time.